The day I finally said no to my father was a day I realized I'd been mourning a ghost my whole life. My name is Liam, and I'm 19. I've lived with my mother, Claire, since I was 16 when my parents' divorce was finalized. My father, Richard, now lives about 40 minutes away with his new wife, Vanessa, her son from a previous relationship, and their new baby girl. I am an only child, at least from my mother's side. My father's house is full of people I feel nothing for, and who seem to feel entitled to everything from me. To understand the now, you have to understand before. My childhood looked, from the outside, perfectly normal. We lived in a nice suburb of Chicago. Both my parents worked. My mom is a paralegal, my dad in sales. They left around the same time in the morning, came home around the same time at night. But the second my father crossed the threshold, his work was done. He would shed his coat, drop his briefcase by the stairs, and plant himself on the living room sofa. The remote was an extension of his hand. My mother's work, however, never ended. She cooked every meal. She did every grocery run, every load of laundry, every scrubbing of the bathroom, every vacuuming of the carpet. She packed my lunches, helped me with my science projects, nursed me through fevers, and listened to my teenage angst. My father's contributions to the household were sporadic and specific. He mowed the lawn in the summer. He raked leaves in the fall. He'd occasionally fiddle with a leaky faucet. But the endless, daily, grinding work of keeping a family alive and fed and clean, that was all on her. And he was a fun one. Oh, he was brilliant at that. He'd swoop in on a Saturday and announce we were going to a baseball game. He'd take me for burgers and milkshakes, let me stay up late watching movies, buy me the new video game my mom said was too violent. I adored him. He was my buddy. My mom was the background noise of care, reliable, constant, and, in my childish ignorance, somehow less exciting. The shift started when I was about 11. My mom, looking exhausted one evening, asked me to please just take my own plate to the sink and put my shoes away. I groaned, complained that it wasn't fair, that I was tired too. One day, after she'd asked me for the third time to pick up my mess from the den, I snapped. Just leave me alone. Stop nagging me. I shouted. I slammed my bedroom door. Later, needing to use the bathroom, I heard it, the soft, choked sound of her crying behind the locked door. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was the sound of someone who was completely spent. That sound pierced something in me. I stood frozen in the hall, my own anger evaporating, replaced by a cold, sharp shame. I looked at the house through new eyes. I saw my father's coffee mug sitting on the floor next to the couch. I saw the newspaper he'd scattered. I saw my own trail of chaos. And I saw her, moving silently between it all, try to put the pieces back together while nobody noticed they were even broken. In that moment, the fun dad narrative began to crack. A 12-year-old shouldn't have to have this realization, but I did. My father was a guest in his own home, and my mother was a staff. I started helping her, not because she asked, but because I could not see it anymore. We'd do the dishes together, and she'd tell me about her day. We'd fold laundry in front of the TV, and she'd ask me about school. It became our time. My relationship with my father became strained. I'd watch him laze on the couch while she prepped dinner after a full day of work, and a quiet resentment began to boil inside me. When I was 14, it spilled over. Why do you never help? I asked him point blank one night. Mom does everything. His face turned crimson. He stood up, towering over me. You don't speak to me that way, he roared, his voice shaking the quiet of the room. You have no idea what I do for this family. Go to your room. Now! I went, trembling with a mix of fear and fury. My mom came in later, sat on the edge of my bed, and just smoothed my hair. It's okay, sweetie, she whispered. We manage, you and I. Just let him be. That was her mantra. Just let him be. The few times she did manage to cajole him into helping, like making a simple pasta dinner, it was a disaster. He'd use every pot in the kitchen, spill sauce everywhere, and then act put upon when she had to clean it. I see now it was a strategy. Incompetence as a weapon. Make the job so painful you're never asked again. Then, when I was 15, the foundation shattered. My mom found Tex on his phone. He'd been having an affair with a woman named Vanessa for over 8 months. The fight that followed was apocalyptic. Things were thrown. Words were said that can never be taken back. He didn't even deny it. He just left. That night, he walked out and went to her. He came back a few days later, a hollow look in his eyes, and packed suitcases while my mom sat at the kitchen table, staring into nothingness. The divorce proceedings were a blur of quiet despair for her. When the papers were finally signed, she didn't cry in court. She held it together until we got home, and then she collapsed. I'd never seen my strong, capable mother like that. She couldn't get out of bed. I brought her soup, made her tea, helped her to the shower. I held her at night while she cried silent tears into her pillow. My hatred for my father, which had been simmering for years, crystallized into something pure and cold. He hadn't just been a lazy husband. He'd been a betrayer. He'd broken the most loyal person he'd ever known. Her family, my aunts and grandparents, helped when they could, but they had their own lives. So it fell to me. I got a part-time job at a local hardware store at 16 to help with bills. Slowly, over months, my mom began to resurface. She started seeing a therapist. She reconnected with old friends. She started painting again, a hobby she'd abandoned years ago. The woman who emerged from that darkness was brighter, lighter, more herself than she'd ever been when married to my father. It was proof, in a terrible way, of what he had been suffocating. A couple of months after the divorce, he started his campaign. He wanted shared custody. He wanted me to live with him half the time. I refused outright. My mom, ever the peacemaker, urged me to keep a line open. "He's still your father," she'd say, though the words seemed to taste bitter in her mouth. Reluctantly, I agreed to visit every other weekend. His new house was a showroom of forced happiness. Vanessa was all tight smiles and overly enthusiastic greetings. She had a son, Kyle, who was about 13 then and desperately eager for a cool older brother figure. Vanessa immediately tried to step into a maternal role with me, giving me pointers on my attitude, telling me to lighten up, trying to enforce rules. I met every attempt with stony silence. I ignored Kyle's attempts to play video games with me. I ate the meals they prepared without tasting them, speaking only when directly addressed. Then, less than a year after my parents' divorce, Vanessa got pregnant. My father was over the moon. He started talking about his family and how excited he was for me to have a little sister. The pressure to play happy families intensified. They'd talk about when you stay over more often and how much fun you'll have with the baby. Every visit was a fresh exercise in emotional coercion. As I turned 18, I simply stopped going. I'd pop by for an awkward hour, maybe on a Sunday afternoon, and then leave. My father blamed my mother, accusing her of poisoning me against him. Vanessa's attitude shifted from fake nice to openly hostile. She'd make passive-aggressive comments about my ingratitude and then use the kids as pawns. "Kyle misses you," she'd say. "Your sister was asking for her big brother. Don't you think you're being selfish?" The final confrontation happened on a gray Sunday in October. I'd agreed to stop by. I was there for less than 20 minutes, standing in their perfectly decorated kitchen, when Vanessa launched into a lecture. "Liam, this has gone on long enough. Your father is heartbroken. You're an adult now, and you need to start acting like one. We are your family, whether you like it or not. This silent treatment is childish. I turned to leave. My father moved, blocking the doorway to the hall. "She's right," he said, his voice low and strained. "You need to grow up. Leave the past in the past. You can't be angry forever. We're family." That word, coming from him, was the match to the dynamite. All the years of watching my mom cry, of cleaning up his messes, of holding her shattered pieces together, erupted out of me. Family? My voice was a scream, raw and tearing from my throat. You don't know what that word means. You were never a husband. You were a burden, a child she had to feed and clean up after. You sat on your ass while she worked herself to the bone, and all you could do was complain and demand another beer from 5 feet away. You were a fun weekend buddy, but you were never a father. You weren't there for the hard stuff, the sick nights, the school stress, the real talks. And then, after using her up, you went out and found someone else to leech on to, and you shattered her. I was trembling, pointing a finger at him. A 15-year-old kid had to glue his mother back together because her husband was a selfish, worthless coward. I don't love you. I haven't loved you in years. I look at you and I feel nothing but disgust. I wheeled on Vanessa, who was staring, open-mouthed, and you are nothing to me. You have zero authority over my life. I don't care about you. I don't care about your son. I don't care about your baby. You slept with a married man and helped break my mother. You are not a good person. Stop filling those kids' heads with lies about me being their brother. I am not, and I never will be. I turned my final words back to my father, looking directly into the eyes of the stranger who shared my DNA. The man I thought was my father died a long time ago. And honestly, he wasn't even that great. You're just some guy my mom used to be married to. Now get out of my way. I shoved past him, my shoulder connecting with his. He was too stunned to resist. I drove home, my hands shaking on the wheel, tears of rage and grief blurring my vision. I told my mom everything, collapsing into her arms on our living room sofa. She held me, stroked my hair, and whispered, "Oh, my brave boy, I understand why you did it. I just wish it didn't cost you so much pain." She never once badmouthed him. Even then, her grace was a mystery to me. The expected silence from his end lasted about 3 days. Then the bombardment began, not from my father, but from Vanessa. Texts poured in, calling me a cruel, hateful son, saying my father was devastated, that he couldn't stop crying, that I'd broken his heart. Then messages from people I'd met once at a barbecue or never at all, Vanessa's sister, her cousin, her mother, started popping up on social media and my phone. Everyone makes mistakes. He's still your dad. You only get one family. You were way out of line. The sheer volume of it, the unified front of their narrative, did make me doubt myself for a moment. Had I been too harsh? Should I have just walked away quietly? But then I'd picture my mom's face the day he left, and the steel would return. This wasn't a mistake. This was the culmination of a lifetime of selfish choices. I didn't owe him a performance of forgiveness. Fueled by both defiance and a need for finality, I sat down and wrote a long, meticulous message to my father. It took me over an hour. My mom read it over, her eyes sad but resolute, and gave me a small nod. It was time. "Richard, I began, not Dad. I know what I said was harsh, but I am not apologizing for the truth of it. My whole childhood, you modeled exactly what a partner and parent should not be. You and Mom worked equal hours, but you treated your home like a hotel, and her like the concierge maid and cook. I realized what was happening when I was 12. Every time I picked up your discarded socks or washed your dish from the living room, my resentment grew. A child did more to care for your home than you did. Let that sink in. Yes, you did fun things. I acknowledge that, and I did appreciate those moments as a kid. But that is the bare minimum, the easy part of parenting. You were absent for everything else. The illnesses, the anxieties, the homework, the conversations that actually build a relationship. You say you always wanted a close bond with your son, but you never tried to know me. When I needed you, you sent me Mom because you'd had a long day. I hope, for your daughter's sake, you have changed. I hope Vanessa does not find herself in the same trap of perpetual service and silent resentment. She is not my concern, but no one deserves that. You need to tell Vanessa and her entire extended family to cease contacting me immediately. If I receive one more guilt-tripping text or message, I will block every single one of you, including you. Vanessa has no authority over me, and she has earned no respect from me. She is, and will always be, the woman you cheated with. She is not entitled to a relationship with me. My politeness was a facade for my mother's sake, not an invitation. I repeat, I wish no harm to her children, but I am not their brother nor their family. You lying to them about that is cruel and will only hurt them in the long run. Stop it. If you are unhappy, you get a divorce. You go to therapy. You do not sneak around and betray the person who built her life around you. That is the action of a coward. I'm 19 and I know that. This is my final word on the matter. Do not contact me. I will not be visiting. If, at some point in the future, I choose to reestablish contact, it will be on my terms, my timeline, and it will not be because of pressure or guilt. Any attempt to apply such pressure will result in permanent, total silence. I hope, for your own sake and the sake of your new family, that you seek help. You need to dismantle the person you have been and build something worth respecting, because right now, you have none from me. Leave me alone. I hit send. The weight in my chest was immense, a tangled knot of grief, anger, and liberation. For 4 hours, there was nothing. Then, a single notification popped up on my screen. From Richard. I understand. That was all. No defense, no protest, no manipulation. Just 2 words. The harassing messages from Vanessa's clan stopped. The digital noise vanished, leaving a quiet so profound it was almost dizzying. I felt free. I also felt a deep, aching sadness, not for the relationship I had lost, but for the father I'd never really had. The fantasy was finally completely dead. I wasn't burning the bridge. I was acknowledging that it had washed away in a flood of his own making years ago, and I was done trying to swim back to its ghost. My life, with my mom in our quiet, respectful, mutually supportive home, became my whole world. I focused on my community college classes, my job, my friends. I watched my mom thrive. She started dating again, a kind man named David who brought her flowers and actually helped with the dishes. The contrast was staggering. About 8 months after the blow-up, I heard through the grapevine my grandmother, who still had occasional, strained contact with my father, that Vanessa had left him. Apparently, the pattern had repeated itself. The new baby, the stress, the expectation that she would do everything while he played the fun dad and disengaged at home, it had become too familiar. She'd taken the kids and moved back to her hometown. The irony was not lost on me. He'd traded one family for a replica, only to lose that one too, likely in the same way. I felt a pang for the children, for Kyle and the little girl. I hoped they'd be okay. But I felt nothing for him. No schadenfreude, no pity, just a hollow confirmation. He tried to reach out once more, about a year after Vanessa left. A simple email. Liam, I know I don't deserve it, but I'd like to talk. I'm alone now. I see things differently. I didn't reply. I deleted it. The past was indeed in the past, just as he'd once demanded. But I was the one who had finally, truly left it there. My story isn't about a dramatic, lifelong feud. It's about the quiet, painful process of waking up to the reality of someone you love, of recalibrating your heart to stop loving the idea of them and start seeing the truth of them. It's about choosing the parent who chose you every single day in 1,000 unseen ways. And it's about learning the hard way that sometimes the healthiest, strongest thing you can do is to walk away from a source of poison, even if society calls it family, and build your own definition of love, respect, and home from the pieces that remain.